Hello, hello. Welcome to today's podcast. If you hear any noise, I am making French toast and I almost forgot to turn the fan on. And in our new place, you got to turn the fan on or the smoke alarms go off and open the window. Interesting. It's an electric stove. I don't know. Do you have an electric stove? So I've got something that is going to just literally knock your socks off today. And if you're anyone like me and you are a high performer and you're finding that what you're building is causing, some type of self abandonment, self betrayal, or some type of performance that gets you to change who you are just to show up and sound marketable and polished and relate instead of relatable and real and authentic and integrous, then this is for you. I was doing a really big deep dive and I realized something. There is a part of building our lives where when we start to go to show up, there's this underlying subconscious stuff that leads the show, and it can be fear, which shows up as feeling unsafe. Unsafe. So we hide behind, doing things the safe way. We hide behind what we really want to say. We even hide behind our jobs. We hide behind our friends, our circles that really just bring us down and have no vision. We hide behind our familiarity and our comfort. We may even hide behind what we've known. And I'm going to tell you that comes with a cost. There's some things that might show up when you go to really start stepping out and becoming and being vulnerable, so much so that you aren't blending in anymore, that you're being seen. And it can be terrifying, especially for those of us who have had past experiences where showing up meant harm. Showing up meant literal abandonment. Showing up meant fear. Showing up meant abuse. Showing up meant that I had to perform. Showing up meant I was discarded, ignored, unless I was a specific way, unless I was good enough, unless I had good behavior, unless I didn't speak up against the things that were happening that were abusive and manipulative. And then if you want to add in as part of my story, I didn't know I was biracial. I didn't. So just imagine for a moment, looking at yourself in the mirror every day, not really knowing who you are, not knowing who to be, how to be, and looking at a face staring back at you, and you have no idea that you are biracial. You have no clue. You have none until the age of 13. Talk about a culture shock. Talk about a shock to the gut, to the soul, to the spirit. Because then, if you spend your life trying to figure out who you are, you then start putting yourself in every kind of box to acclimate. Why? Because that meant acceptance. It meant that you were safe. So instead of really owning it, who we are, really claiming our whole self, right? And nothing but our whole self, really stepping into who we really are. And instead we hide behind the mask because it's safer. There's a cost associated with that. So this is my awareness that I am sharing with you today. And one of the things I absolutely love about my podcast is that I don't hide who I am. I don't. I show up where I am exposed every part of myself in a, honorable fashion. Okay. Just had to put that out there for a disclaimer. But there's an exposing, a feeling of, oh shit, like it's really happening. Like, oh crap, I'm really stepping into who I've been working so hard to become. And I get to bring people with me on my journey. I get to bring you with me on my journey. And I'm not hiding. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not performing. This isn't fake. This is like real and raw. Hello, hello. If you're there, I see you joined the room. So welcome to my show. Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time joining, please let me know where you are tuning in from. I love connecting with amazing people. This is where you get to interact in real time on this live, and I love it because it's a way that also gives people an experience of what it's like to be in my other spaces that's paid. But I do this because it's my jam. Like this podcast, it's literally it's the love, it's my love. It's my precious. Okay? If let's put it this way. If everything else in my life was stripped. Oh, from Ghana. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. If everything in my life was stripped away and all I had was my family, my husband and my kids, I know that my podcast is what I would have too, because it's just who I am. Because you know, when you start stepping into embracing who you are and you no longer apologize or are ashamed of showing up in your whole authentic, integrous self, you create a platform, you create a table for other people to join you. Plus, I know that I'm not talking just to myself. I know that I'm not talking to myself because my podcast has been getting a ton of downloads and listens and follows and likes from amazing, beautiful people like yourself. And so it's really cool. So one of the reasons why I keep showing up is because you keep showing up. And I know that people are listening. I know that people are listening because I don't have to hide who I am. I can show up here in my most raw, authentic form, even if I'm in my PJs standing in my kitchen cooking, which I actually am. I don't have to show up polished and beautiful. I already know I'm beautiful, okay? I don't have to put on makeup just to show up and do my podcast. I don't have to do that. Now, of course, if I wanted to, get on my microphone and show myself live, sure, I might put on a cool shirt and, make myself look good for the camera, right? Because that's what I would do. But, but it, there's something that happens when we stop fearing showing up as we are in our wholehearted selves, and you can have a couple of pieces, but I'm eating my breakfast. Sorry, excuse me. You can show up as you are in your whole self without hiding. Okay. So what self so the title is Self-Betrayal is a Whole Lot of Messy. Okay. It just is. Self-betrayal looks like when you go to show up, let's say I'm going to use this as an example. Let's say you want to show up online, okay? But you have people telling you how you should be showing up. People telling you how to water yourself down. People telling you, well, you should be showing up this way and you should be showing up that way. Instead, make yourself marketable because you want people to hire you, right? You want people to look at you not as a victim. You want to magnetize the right people, whatever any of this means. So self-betrayal looks like now watering our stuff down and ourselves down to play a part online. And I see this happen with a lot of beautiful people, and it's not a bad thing. It it can be a hurdle for those of us who are healing from performance, who are healing from having, you know, having the confidence to now show up where we're not hiding. It can also be a hindrance to those of us who are high performers, because some of us, if you're anything like me, the way that you're wired can it can get in the way of our learning journey. Like, we're teachable, and when we learn, we implement and we do the things. But what ends up happening is we will end up trading parts of ourselves and how we really want to do the thing based on our wiring to please and perform. Why? Because maybe past experiences have robbed us of the opportunity to feel accepted as we are. And if when I go to learn something, if there's anything attached to it, like you have to change who you are wholeheartedly, hands down, I've already lost. So people like myself, as a high performer, this is what we get trapped into. Why? Because we want to look good. We want to look good to the people teaching us, right? We want to look amazing, want to look awesome. Oh, you don't want me to sound like myself? Okay. But you want me to play it this way? Okay. It's kind of like an actor, right? Like, if I can just be real here for a second. In Hollywood, they make a lot of actors perform to play parts that they really, well, shouldn't be playing, because Hollywood has a set way of getting, Hollywood has a way of getting people to abandon themselves to play the part. Now, there are people who also will play the part without abandoning themselves, and they show up in their like rawest form. Like, there are some actors who in Hollywood, they play phenomenal parts, but they refuse to abandon who they are, for example, in scenes with other women. So I've heard and I've seen the stories of men actors who refuse to play sex scenes and other kissing scenes with other women because it's not their wife. Now that is an amazing standard, and it's not it's not popular. But my name is Tiffany. Yes, thank you. And so in our journeys, you know, it is messy. It can get really messy, especially when we're healing, especially when high performers like myself. It's Matt, can you please turn that down? Thank you. I'm doing the podcast. Okay, thank you. So, being a high performer, it's messy because when we start healing and we start realizing what we're no longer available for, what we are no longer tolerating, when we decide and make that decision and we're healing and the masks start getting removed, that's where it can become messy, because it can feel scary. And we can also get exhausted by expending energy to play the part that we would rather play, but because we're afraid of getting ostracized, criticized, condemned, left, mistreated, misused, all the things that maybe you had a bad experience. And so that's what will show up in our journey. So it's easier for us to wear a mask than it is to remove the mask. That is self-betrayal. When we go to show up and we're watering our messaging down and we're watering our words down, let's say, do you have social media? Many people are great at putting on a mask on social media. Why? Because it's the one place they get to play a part, to look a certain way, so that people will say, oh, I want to be like them. But in reality, polished is never a great example to follow. I don't care how amazing or beautiful or fantastic someone is. If when I go to show up online, am trading myself, trading who I truly am, hold on. Matt, turn that down, please. I'm doing a podcast. Thank you. When I show up, and if I have to show up polished and watered down, like I said, I've already lost. We've already lost. And we're not setting ourselves apart. We're actually blending in. And I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me, a high performer, okay? High performer, I'm talking to you. Now, this could be whether you are in business as a business professional. This could be whether you are a career professional, which is where I see it show up the most. This is where you could be a leader. I'm speaking to you. So high performer category. Okay. It's just what we are. It's who we are. And when we try to keep on the mask, it robs us, but it also robs everyone else of experiencing the rawest and truest form of who you are. Now I'm going to say something. When we're in school, right? This is where showing up isn't accepted, right? This is where being yourself is met with, well, criticism and being made fun of. And how dare you act a certain way or act differently? You see it happen all the time online. You see bullies, you see all kinds of stuff. And it's like, why do, why can't we just accept people? Why do we have to try to change people? And why do I have to try to change myself just to fit in? But maybe changing yourself to fit in is all you've known. It's what I knew until I decided to draw my line in the sand and say enough. Because the only person it really is harming is me. That's it. Not my coach, not my mentor, not my therapist, not every other caretaker who took care of me in the foster care system since before I was one, not my birth parents, not my biological siblings, not my husband, not my kids, not my grandkids. It was harming me. That's who it was harming the most. And yes, it was also harming those around me. Why? Because when I started becoming my truest, rawest, authentic, integrous self, I stopped tolerating bullshit. I decided to take off the mask, but I also realized that taking off the mask means I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to be seen. So it's easier to hide in a cave, but I realized that hiding in a cave serves no one. Doesn't even serve me. And I know as you're listening, maybe there's a part that you're hearing and you're like, oh, is she reading my mail? No, I've been there. And I can tell you this part. The truth is this. I still deal with it. But here's what I do to remember who I am. I post something that isn't going to resonate with a whole lot of people, but I don't care because I'm not there for show. I'm not there for popularity. I'm there to be relatable, not marketable. Meaning, if I have to show up and look polished and digestible for people to understand me, I'm out because that's the way I lived for so long. Did foster care rob me of having experiences of being a beautiful, free, ballerina ish butterfly? I live in the US, in good old California. That's where I'm from. That's where I reside. And so it's a journey for sure. Very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you for being here. So it's been a journey for sure, but my journey, if now imagine, and I'm going to start closing with this. Imagine if I kept my journey to myself out of fear of what other people would do to me and say and see and all the things, because you don't have to answer for me not sharing my gifting with the world. I have to answer for that. And I finally have cracked the code of what my gift actually is. It is this: speaking in a way that transforms people, in a way that extracts the words that people are saying and the identity. But I'm also, I share my gifting with the people it resonates the most, and that's high performers. Why? Because I provide spaces where it's my voice that leads you through to your own transformation and reclamation, because it's where you draw a line in the sand and you say, you're done. You say, enough. Like, I'm no longer going to perform my way through this life of mine anymore. And, I have to say, age doesn't matter when you decide to remove the mask. I don't care if you're 25. I don't care if you're 75 or anywhere in between there. It is a day where you will be celebrating because, oh, cool. Okay, then you can be 22 and realize this. And you know what? I have to say thank you so much for being on here and listening, because you are going to have a whole cool journey ahead of you by you choosing to stay on this podcast, listening to somebody who probably could be your mother, because I have kids who's younger than you and also a little bit older than you. So it's kind of cool. I really I'm honored. Thank you so much. But you already get a head start before a lot of other people do. And you know what? If you feel inclined, please share this with your friends because you just never know what people are dealing with. You just never know. You just never know if people are one step away from quitting on their dreams or their gift or their journey because maybe they're experiencing this kind of stuff. I also know people in high school also deal with this in some sort of way, right? Because that's also where we're taught to hide who we are in fear. But we don't have to hide. You don't have to hide. As a high performer, you don't have to hide who you are ever again. And that's the messy part. It's because it's not that you need like 50 people to cheer you along on your journey. You need one. It starts with cheering yourself on. And then when you start cheering yourself on, you will find people that will cheer you on and they don't it's not out of an agenda that they have. It's out of cool authenticity, cool like they're real. So those are the people to have around you because it takes as you if you I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but all you need is one person to believe in you. Starts with yourself though, okay? Because you've got to believe in yourself first. Then when you start, people will come alongside you. Thank you. I appreciate. You know, I have to ask a question, and I ask because I sincerely am asking this. So, I've noticed that a lot of amazing folks have followed me on social media and now in my podcast who are from like Ghana, South Africa, Africa, and other nations that, forgive me for not fully remembering the exact area, but I have been called Ma or Mother. And does that mean like respectable thing? Have you seen movies where people, for example, there's this movie with Hilary Swank, The Freedom Riders, and there's a part in the movie where they call her Ma, and she stood up and she's like, "No, I'm nobody's mother." And they're like, "No, it's a sign of respect." So is that what that means? I'm thoroughly curious. If it is, thank you. I appreciate you. And that's why I show up, because I know that people will listen to what I say. And yeah, who knows? And you're young, right? Which means you've got a whole life ahead of you to go out there and do some like really amazing things with your life. And I've heard of amazing stories too of young people not sitting in the status quo. It's very cool. So thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for thank you for listening. So that concludes today's podcast. And one thing I want to say before I end is no matter how messy things get for you, you just keep going. And yes, stuff is going to show up along your journey. It just is. I'm living proof that stuff is still going to show up, but it's what you choose to do in that situation. You can find the lessons. You can find the signs. Thank you. That's pretty cool. Then okay, that is cool. So you'll find the lessons, and when you do, it'll help you to keep going. And when the stuff comes up, maybe even the blocks and all that stuff, that's where you find a community of, or like you can have a therapist, a coach, a mentor, or a podcast, or somewhere where it keeps you going, that you don't keep yourself in that overthinking loop, so that you don't quit, so that you find the strength, so that you can say, oh, what's coming up isn't meant to stop me. It's meant, like, it's just a signal. but it's showing up for a reason. And so you can come to the country. I believe you'd have to do it like, I'm not sure how, but yeah, I think you have to have a passport and a visa and all that stuff. But at least come to America and get the experience. And yeah, yeah, that would be cool. Have some of the food, In-N-Out Burger. Find the places where they have an In-N-Out Burger. And I guarantee you, you'll be like, how do we get this in my area? So that concludes today's podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for listening. And just going to encourage you to keep going,